Make sure to subscribe to Ben on YouTube so you can stay up to date on everything humble.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Today's one of those days that is just good for the soul. Today's one of those conversations that's just so important that if we truly grasp this is a life-changing stuff. We had our friend Rocky Garza on before, and he talked about unearthing some of the things that hold us back in life from achieving our potential, achieving the purpose and the calling that God has over our lives. Today's one of those conversations, folks. I'm just gonna get started right away here. Today's guest is Dean Smith, who's got an incredible story. So if you need to grab your tissues, today's the day for this. We're going to dive right into this here. So without further ado, I'm going to bring my guest on, Mr. Dean Smith.
Thank you so much, Ben. I am stoked to be here.
Awesome.
Yes.
Love it. Come on, man. You're bringing some energy because I know we're gonna have a pretty intense moment here in a few moments, but we're gonna dive into some energy. I do have my rig here, folks, ready to roll with you guys. Good to see you, Wendy. Good to see you, folks. Dean, dude, there is so much I want to cover in the next conversation here with you, my brother. I'm going to let you take lead here. I want you to kind of just dive into your story, and I'm just going to let you do that because I think it's so important that we understand the context behind today's topic, my brother. So go ahead and just take it away.
All right. Thank you, Ben. So for all you watching right now, listen, I know you must be focused on personal development. You may be focused on spiritual development. And you want to move forward and you want to be successful, not just for yourself, but for others to shine bright. And I want you to know that what we're talking about right now is absolutely crucial. You're thinking to yourself, I want to have the it factor. I want to have the it factor, but I'm going to suggest to you today that if you want to reach new heights in your life, in your business, both spiritual, relational relationships, you need to have the F factor.
Uh-oh.
But before I go forward, I want to go back. And I want you to think for yourself, though, before I tell my story, is you have those days in your life that no matter how many years or even decades go by, you can still look back and remember every little detail. So for me, that day was February 11th of my 6th grade year. I was sitting in Mrs. Herschel's, or I was sitting in the principal's office. My teacher was Mrs. Herschel, and in the principal's office, 6th grade, not knowing what I'm doing, and all of a sudden a man walks in.
By the way, if you guys are interested in real estate investing and you are in Canada, I wrote a book here called Real Estate Secrets Exposed. Learn how to actually make money virtually, which is cool, from the comfort of your home. Yes, it is possible if you understand the value and how to do wholesaling. And if you don't know anything about wholesaling, you need to grab this book. It's absolutely free. There's no page numbers. There's nothing else in there. It's just ready to go, though. Humble.ceo to grab your free copy.
Hi, Dean. My name is Pastor Rex Bell. I don't know quite how to tell you this, son, but we're going to need to go to a hospital. Something's happened to your mom. And in that moment, and it's interesting, as many times as I've told this story, my stomach never doesn't drop right there. See, at this point in my life, my mom was my everything. And imagine this, I'm 12 years old and she'd already been married 4 times. And there was actually boyfriends in between the husbands. So my life was always changing. And I'd moved over 20 times before this Southwood Elementary School. So my life was always changing, getting used to new father figures, getting used to new schools, trying to make new friends, but getting teased. And there was a bunch of abuses and trials and tribulations before that. But the idea is with everything changing, the one thing that I could put all my hope into, all my faith into, all my trust into was my mama. I loved my mama. And so Pastor Rex brought my sisters and me to the Harborview Medical Center, downtown Seattle. And I remember going back to every little detail, walking in the room and seeing bandages around my mom's head and the doo-doo. What had happened was earlier that morning when my sisters and I were at school, my 4th stepdad, whose name was Bob, he'd been my stepdad for about 2 years. He and my mom got into this horrible argument. And in a fit of rage, Bob walks down the hall. He goes into my room, he opens my closet, and he grabs the Christmas present I'd just gotten couple months earlier, which was a baseball bat. And so on February 11th of my 6th grade year, when my classmates were just getting out of 5th period, I watched my mom take her last breath of life. Before I go on, I'm going to ask you who listening or watching this right now, first of all, take a deep breath. Go ahead. And then I want to invite you to think about this question for a minute. Is there anyone in your life that you haven't forgiven? See, for me, it was about 30 minutes after my mom was pronounced dead, and I'm sitting at this table in the Harborview Medical Center cafeteria. Pastor Rex is sitting across from me in this crystallizing moment of my entire childhood. I'm eating this egg salad sandwich from the vending machine at the hospital. Tears are running down my cheeks, and I'm as crystal clear as a little kid can be. That's the day I became aware of my small voice in my head, like that inner monologue or dialogue. And I was like, I'm going to grow up big. I'm going to grow up strong. And I know Bob is going to go to prison for murdering my mother, but I know someday he's probably going to get out. And when he does, I'm going to be there waiting for him, either to kill him or at least beat him within an inch of his life. In fact, I was going to hang on to all this anger, all this frustration. I'm going to use it as motivation to be the best I can to honor my mom. Well, on the toughest day of my life was also one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me, interestingly. And I get emotional every time I think about this, because the man who picked me up from the hospital, Pastor Rex Bell, asked me to be his son. And so in just like a moment, this life of trials and tribulations, and I'm a wild and crazy kid, and I went from in this moment to being a wild and crazy kid to all of a sudden a wild and crazy pastor's kid. And oh my gosh, so I joined this new family, and he's got 2 other kids, my brother 1 year older and a new sister 1 year younger, and a loving mother and him. And my 5th and final dad, I call him, became my hero. I mean, every day this guy, Rex, Pastor Rex, would find me and he would ask me questions, and he would tell me about Jesus, and he would listen to me, and he would love me, and he would affirm me. And I remember he became my hero, man. I would see him on stage in front of thousands of people, and I'm like, I want to do what that guy does. I want to reach people and motivate people and inspire people. I didn't necessarily want to be a pastor, but I knew that my life could have a purpose, and I wanted to live in the fullness of it. I'm imagining that some of you watching right now have had that same feeling. And my dad, who would talk to me every day, every few months or so, he'd have this mantra, this thing that he would say, and it drove me crazy. And he would get that serious look on his face that parents get, you know. And so I knew it was coming. Dean, how's it going with your forgiveness? Son, how's it going towards Bob? And Dad, I don't know. What am I supposed to say, Dad? It's going really great. Thanks so much for asking. And my dad would be like, son, stop being a smart butt. I mean it. How's it going with forgiving Bob? How you doing with that? Dad, I don't know. It's going swell, whatever. And then he would say the words. I'm going to say them right now. He would say the words that tormented me for years. And they're about to torment you for years too if you don't take action. And he would say, son, you will never live in the fullness of your God-given potential until you make forgiveness a priority. This guy tried to tell me that I would never live in the fullness of my God-given potential unless I made forgiveness a priority. And I didn't say it out loud to my dad, but in my mind, I'm thinking, are you crazy? After what he murdered my mom, are you kidding me? You expect me to do this for him? You expect me to forgive him? Are you serious? A, it could never be done, but even if it could, I would never do it. That is ridiculous. And it made me angry on the inside. But what I didn't know at the age of 12 through 18, that I learned later, and I wish I would have known, is that the kind of forgiveness that my dad was talking about wasn't going to be the kind of forgiveness where I was initially going to be doing something for Bob. It was the kind of forgiveness that I was going to be doing something for me. But I didn't understand that yet. Oh no, I had coping mechanisms. See, there's only two choices. Either you forgive and you unshackle and unburden from the painful emotions so that you can be your best self to live in your fullness of your God-given potential, or there's everything else, and we'll just call those forgiveness substitutes or coping mechanisms. And my coping mechanisms work great. All you do is just don't talk about it. People in my life would be like, so Dean, how's it going with your mom? I would, shh. A counselor would come, walking down the hall. So Dean, how's it going with your mom? Shh. I just didn't talk about it. I was doing great. And I stayed distracted. I was voted class clown my senior year of high school because I was the one who was always diverting everything from getting too real and knocking on that compartment where I'd stuffed all my pain. And I thought I was doing great. My coping mechanisms were working fine. And then I got into college, got a basketball scholarship, and all of a sudden, my fifth and final loving dad isn't finding me every day and mentoring me, praying with me. And all of a sudden, I needed something a little stronger to deal with that inner turmoil. And I got really into drugs and alcohol. I started hanging out with people you just know not to hang out with. I started doing things that I just knew, like, what am I doing? I started being a person that I never would want to be. In fact, I got married at the age of 20, which is really smart when you're in college playing basketball, really smart. That's sarcasm. And I got divorced at the age of 22. And I got divorced because my wife left me because I was a two-faced jerk. I was trying to be this nice pastor's kid on the outside, but I was dealing with some real stuff on the inside that I thought I was doing fine with, but it was surface. And I wish I could say that's when I came to my senses, but actually it wasn't until just after college when I got into business and I realized I saw myself as this successful entrepreneur, this successful business owner, this successful person who was not only prosperous, but blessing the world. And all of a sudden my expectation was here, but I kept showing up here and I couldn't figure it out. And in this place where I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I was divorced and I wasn't successful in business, I'm like, my dad's words came back to me, tormenting me, that I would never live in the fullness of my God-given potential. I would never be here until I made forgiveness. Yes, the F factor, forgiveness, a priority. And it made me mad that he was right. Dang it. And so in my living room in Spokane, Washington, in my mid-20s, I made a choice. For me, my choice was this dramatic moment. It's funny, not all moments are dramatic like this, but I had my hands in the air and I'm praying to God. That does it, God, that's fine. And there were some expletives, okay? I'm not saying that's cool, but I'm like, all right, fine, God, today I choose to forgive, but I need your help because I don't know how. And I'm talking to God, I'm saying those things, and there was lots of things I said, but moving forward, there was a couple things that initial day that I realized were so important. I would say this to you as well, as that day I said out loud, I choose to forgive. Maybe words that many of us have never, ever spoken or even thought about speaking like that. And see, I believe, neuroscience proves that our brains are most powerfully impacted by two things: the words we speak and the pictures we make in our minds. Coincidentally, 2,000 years ago, the Bible already told us that. Neuroscience is catching up. Words and what we think, right? And when I spoke it out loud, I realized that I had opened up a new possibility in my life, especially because I was in conversation with the living God. The second thing I did was I asked for help. And I asked for help from God, and I asked for help from my dad, and I started to make forgiveness a priority. And there's several things I did from both a personal development perspective and a spiritual development perspective, and to make I'll tell you that first day though. So I'm at the end of my prayer, this unbelievable moment, and I'm at the end of all the things. I choose to forgive all things, and I say, in Jesus' name, amen. And in that moment, all of a sudden, I look around and I look up, and nothing happened. Nothing happened. Well, I thought when you make a choice to forgive something this big, the clouds part and the angels, hallelujah. I thought it was going to be this bow moment, and all of a sudden it's just like the most boring moment ever. But here's the thing I learned later. It didn't matter how boring it was. God heard my prayer. There's this expectation sometimes people have when I get to do some teaching on forgiveness. You know, there's a scripture that says, get rid of all bitterness, rage, anger, brawling, slander. To get rid of it. From the original text, it means to lift it up, to elevate, to raise it, to say, I don't want it anymore. You take it. It's like we don't understand bitterness, unforgiveness. It's not like it's a part of us. Like I can't escape. No, it's God says it's something you can forgive. And in fact, in Mark 11:25, Jesus himself said, each and every time you stand praying, forgive.
Yep.
Every time. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of like what my dad was telling me. That is so weird.
Dean, this is so. I'm just gonna jump in here for a moment, man, because I wanted to give you some space and I wanted to give you some time to just go ahead and share that story. And I just think it's so relevant to so many people, folks. And we're gonna keep dialoguing here, but so many times we're looking at different things that are affecting us in our business, our mindset, our relationships with other people. But we have these deep-seated issues that we just don't want to address. And the reason why I wanted to let you go, because typically we'll dialogue back and forth more, but you're touching on such an important deep-seated problem that a lot of people just are not willing to go there. It's too difficult, man. It hurts too much. So just this whole idea of resentment and the idea of not being able to forgive someone, dude. You've obviously been through from one end to the other, and the story is just so incredible. What happens to people, because you've been there, I'm sure, what happens to people that just refuse? How much does that resentment really, truly affect you for the rest of your life?
I'll tell you like this. I find myself in this boardroom at one of the nation's top centers for addiction, depression, all kinds of disorders. And I got to speak to the staff. Picture 30 professional psychiatrists, psychologists, doctors, what else is there? Therapists, counselors. And I say, I've got to ask you. And they were all older. I mean, these were no newbies. These were the best of the best in the nation. I said, of all the clients you've seen who've come in here hurting, of all of them over your 30, 40 years of experience, what percentage of them would you say had a root of bitterness as one of the main issues that expanded everything? And every single person in that room was 90. They said 95% of their clients or more.
95. Wow.
95.
So bitterness and resentment.
One person said 90%, just to be fair.
So bitterness and resentment. You said something that was really interesting. You said the absence of resentment can lead to more love, more creativity, more energy, more abundance, more life. And I think even so a lot of the folks that watch the show are business owners, entrepreneurs, real estate investors, whatever. And they want more out of life, Dean. They want so much more. And I'm trying to deliver this message that it's a holistic approach to success. Success isn't just money. Money is a byproduct of who you become. And if you hang on to these deep-seated resentments and things, what happens is you can't be more creative. You can't have more energy. Would you discover that idea with us? Because I just think that's such a brilliant message, the absence of resentment. Let's get into it. Come on, man.
So many people isolate forgiveness as a spiritual thing. And of course it is. But you go I've been able to teach in the business world, and you go and say, so does anyone in here think that a negative or sabotaging thinking habit could keep you from your goals or dreams or destiny? And everyone's like, of course. And then you realize, then why don't you make bitterness, unforgiveness, and resentment a priority? Because that's what it is. Like, oh. And it's like this evil monster that we're just letting live in our house. And we're like, we hate monsters, but we're not going to deal with that one. It's too scary. You're like, are you kidding me? And so, yes, you realize it takes mind real estate. It takes mental, emotional real estate. When it does that, it infects and affects your relationships, your closest ones especially, not just with others, but with yourself.
Okay.
And with God.
Okay.
Dude,
tell us about that, man. Tell us how does it affect ourselves? Because I think we don't really give it enough weight. But I love this, man. I love this conversation, by the way. This is so important. So just please keep diving in here.
So how about all you real estate investors and entrepreneurs on the line right now who are creative? You have new ideas all the time, and you just want to be thinking of those and building your dream in tangible reality.
We came to Canada in 1991 with nothing but a will to thrive. They risked everything they had, left behind everyone they knew.
The only way out of the country was illegal, and the risk was huge.
I adopted the mindset that my parents had of faith and vision for my life. You see, they helped me understand that you get to decide what happens in this world. By the age of 30, I became a millionaire. I refused to accept scarcity, limiting beliefs, or someone else's excuses. So you want to know what the secret is? People ask me all the time, what's the secret? You want to know what it's going to take for you to succeed? Here's the truth.
But the thing is, when you're driving home and you're thinking about one of your business partners who just stinking ticks you off and you spend time just ruminating and meditating and catastrophizing about that, or how you're frustrated with your significant other and and sometimes it's not like I asked you if there was somebody who you hadn't forgiven. It's those people are stealing your best thinking, stealing your best creativity. So Ben, you alluded to it. I always say, in the absence of bitterness and unforgiveness and resentment, picture it no longer being there. There's now more capacity and more room for everything you've always wanted. And maybe you've only tried to get it through personal development and okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to learn how to think my best self. But you never addressed the biggest monster in the room. The breakthrough, the key breakthrough for you to reach your God-given potential is the F factor. It's making forgiveness a priority, not doing it perfectly, just being in process. Both from a personal development perspective and of course, from a spiritual development perspective.
Dude, so well articulated. So let me ask you this, because this is something that I'm a firm believer in. I believe that the resentment, and we've all been there, folks, myself included, all right? So there's no, I'm guilty as charged on this piece. But I believe that the resentment, I realized in my life, is that it steals your joy. How do you expect to live in joy and just exude positivity and become a beacon of hope for other people when you're so bitter and resentful? Even if you don't vocalize it, but you internalize it, guess what you're still doing? You're still living. You're using your mental bandwidth on things that won't produce a positive, healthy result. So talk about that, man. I think it robs your joy, man. I think it absolutely robs your joy.
It robs your joy. And we've been kind of talking about forgiving other people, but let's be honest. We may be watching this right now and you have guilt and shame for your past mistakes.
Yep.
And you don't know how to get rid of it. You don't know how to forgive yourself, or us Christians might say, receiving God's forgiveness, however you want to say it, it's fine with me. And so you're just living with this constant torment, Could a constant tormenting thought about how horrible you are to yourself keep you from your joy? Duh! Of course it's good. Of course.
Yeah.
Dude. And the thing is we don't realize that you can, this is fundamental truth. I want you to think about this in correlation to the people you realize you haven't been able to forgive. Listen to these words carefully. You too, Ben. You can forgive anyone for anything. Regardless of what they've done, you can forgive yourself regardless of what you've done. And if you don't think that's true, can I give you a couple examples real quick?
Please, let's go.
All right. Well, first of all, I didn't get to the part where, yes, I forgave Bob. I started. So
Sorry,
it was a process, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't in a moment. I didn't go, all right, I just get rid of this bitterness. It was a process. It was a relationship for me with God, plus implementing some personal development principles as well. But the absence of bitterness, new possibilities, right? So all of a sudden, I start to see Bob, because your filter changes. When there's no bitterness, your filter changes. And all of a sudden, I started having compassion for Bob. Mm-hmm. I started to be able to pray for Bob. And then something crazy happened. Mm. I got this unctioning in my spirit that I was supposed to track him down. Now, Bob got out of prison in 1997. And right now in my story, I'm in 2006, all right? In 2006, I tracked his number down and I called him on the phone. And there was this thing that I believed God wanted me to say to him, because once I was free, once I made forgiveness a priority, it was that small voice in the inside that was telling me. So I call Bob. Do you want to hear that conversation verbatim, by the way?
Come on, let's go.
All right. As soon as you said that, my heart starts racing because it takes me back to this moment. Verbatim, this is the conversation with the man who murdered my mother. Ring, ring, ring. Hello? Hello, Bob. It's me, Dean. Bob, the reason I'm calling you is to tell you that I've completely forgiven you for what you did to my mom when I was in 6th grade. And I know that you knew that I wanted to take your life for a lot of years, but I want you to know that God has helped me to forgive you completely. And I know this is going to sound crazy, but he's put this message in my heart that he's still got a purpose for your life too. And he knows that you are carrying around the unforgiveness towards yourself. And Bob, this is weird, but if you'd let me, I would love to help you receive God's forgiveness so that you can live in the fullness of your God-given destiny. Crazy enough, when later Bob told me that when he heard my voice, he thought, oh, he must be out front in my last few minutes of life. He thought I'd finally tracked him down and I was going to kill him. But we became friends on the phone that day. Fast forward a year and a half later, and he attempts suicide. He lived in Tennessee. He lived in Tennessee, southeast, and I was up in Washington, northwest. And I got an opportunity to fly across the country and be with him. His suicide attempt was not successful. And I got to spend a few days with him to help save his life. And I want to tell you, Ben, about this moment of truth that I don't always get to tell when I'm talking on a stage, but I think your listeners and your viewers will appreciate this.
Please. And
it goes to your question, can you really forgive anyone for anything? I'm on my final day with him, and I'm sitting in a hotel room just 3 feet away, and out of the blue, Bob says, Dean, the incident with your mom happened on a Tuesday, but I want to take you back to the Friday before. And over the next 10 minutes, he begins to tell me all the details leading up to my mom's murder, the drugs, the maybe infidelity, the painkillers, the issues with the money, the issues with us kids, and my heart's beating faster and faster and faster. And he gets to Saturday and Sunday and Monday, and he gets to Tuesday. Now picture this. Sitting 3 feet away from me, looking me directly in the eyes, the man who murdered my mother told me every detail about that day, including what her last words were and how many times he hit her. Now I want to tell you what was going on for me. Over those 10 minutes, I'm in my head crying out to God, what do I do, Lord? What do I say? Jesus, help me right now. And for me, it was like this, like the end of a movie where all the scenes flash back really quick. And I'm remembering getting picked up in the principal's office, and I'm remembering the egg salad sandwich and the tears and this moment of truth and all the coping mechanism years, and then the college and the abuse and the divorce, and then finally making a choice. I choose to forgive, and making forgiveness a priority and staying in the process, and finally reaching out to Bob on the phone, and here I am in this moment. And I was really sad by the details he was telling me, but I'm looking him directly in the eyes and realizing that I have never felt more powerful, more empowered, more in control, and more free than I'd ever been. I had been so dominated by bitterness and unforgiveness and resentment for so many years. Even though I said I wasn't, I was. And here I was. And it was in that moment where I realized you can forgive anything. If I can sit here and listen to how my mom was murdered with this dude, you can do it. Anyone can do it. And it was from that day back in 2010 that I've been on a mission to help people forgive. But fast forward, Ben, and I'm almost done with this story, fast forward 1 year from his suicide attempt. In that hotel room that day, I said, Bob, we're going to make forgiveness a priority. Do you accept this? And he said, yes. Bob became my first client, pro bono, Ben, pro bono. He became my first client, and we made forgiveness a priority 1 year later. Picture this. Picture seeing me on stage, and I'm telling an inspirational story. And at the end, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening. There's a few hundred people in the crowd, and I say, and now I want to invite to the stage someone who I love and someone who God loves. Please help me welcome my friend, Bob. And Bob walks on stage and we hug it out, and he gets to, his mission became helping people who had done really bad things just like him. He had a purpose in his life, and he was on display for everyone. Very humbling. That's the same day that my sister Gianna decided to forgive him too. And a year before, she said she wanted to murder him, and she said it on film. Whether it's forgiving yourself, which Bob had to do, or forgiving someone else, you can do it. But you have to make forgiveness a priority. And there's, of course, some principles and practices. All right, my story's done. Ben, go.
Dude, what a powerful moment. And actually, I saw the video of that moment because it's online, folks. And you can see that, on Dean's, socials and stuff like that. And just such an incredible story, man, of just redemption. And I think a lot of times, we look at things and say, well, I can't be redeemed for what I've done, or I can't help this other person. But the truth is, when you relinquish control, see, you don't have to redeem anybody else. And you're already inherently worthy for exactly who you are. So just accept the forgiveness and give it freely. When you're willing to live that way, it's so powerful how liberating it becomes, man. And your story is like, dude, it's a movie. Like, I don't know if you have a movie in the works or anything, but I mean, this is, okay, there you go. Live to Forgive. There it is.
So it was turned into an award-winning documentary that's internationally distributed, seen around the world. That came out in 2010. Live to Forgive is what it's called.
Love it. But it's such a powerful journey of so many elements, Dean. And maybe we can do, as we move forward here, is talk about some of the practical things that folks can do if they're hearing you, they're resonating with you and saying, okay, I get it. You know what? I understand this. I might not be ready, but where should I start? Dean, where should we start, man?
Yeah, it's hard to influence people who aren't aware that they're really dealing with anything. So I realize we're probably going to be speaking to the ones who do realize they've got some guilt and some shame or towards themselves, or there's some people in their life they should probably forgive. I just have such a passion, Ben, for entrepreneurs and business owners and leaders who have an influence over so many other people. And you have to start by getting some leverage on yourself, right? And realizing, like, my friend Evan Money came up with this term, ROF. We know what ROI is, return on investment, but ROF is, what is your return on forgiveness? Okay. Like, when there's the absence of this, what would more creativity and energy and love and joy and peace, what would that be for you?
Interesting.
And it's like, anybody who's watching this realizes that the power of positive thinking and just the power of, only speaking positive things. It's like, why have we ignored one of the most deadly of all negative thinking patterns, which is unforgiveness? So it's almost like I don't even need to go too far. Like, this intuitively. This is my time to say, it's time to make it a priority and stop overlooking it. The thing is that forgiveness it's not just a spiritual thing that people in churches do. It's been studied extensively in the business world. Yeah. Listen to this. Evidently, conclusively, in the business world, it's been shown to help you have healthier relationships, less anxiety, less stress, less hostility, better heart health, better immune system, improved self-esteem. And then a study from 2002, the only thing I'll read during this whole thing. You ready? Forgiveness has been shown in clinical studies in the business world supports the retention of valued employees, allows for greater creativity and innovation, right? This makes sense so far. Leads to increased profitability, generates greater flexibility in adapting to changing market conditions. Dude, this is the real deal. It's not something that Christians just talk about that's fluffy. It has real, tangible results. It changed my life. My story is after I made forgiveness a priority and I got this, guess what? I started having exponential breakthrough in all areas of life. I got a chance to go play professional basketball in Europe. I've owned several businesses and I've been blessed to have national level accolades and blah, blah, blah. But it's been, and now I get to live my dream and help other people break through as well. And I go back and say it was the day I made the choice to make forgiveness a process, or to make forgiveness a priority and imperfectly practice it with God and with intentionality, both personal development and spiritual development. And I'm telling you, man, there's nothing I can't do, Ben. Bring it on. What's up?
Come on, man. Come on, man. Now you're getting me amped up too. Dude, I love this. This is just incredible, man. And you're absolutely right. I can remember moments in my life and my journey when, you know, even other people in business, other investors, sometimes we live in this scarcity mindset, these limiting beliefs that we've developed over the years where there's not enough business for all of us and it's a red pool of competition and we're all aggressively sharks fighting in these waters, and then somebody, you know, a shark bites your tail off. And then you're like, I hate this guy. He's my competitor. He's a jerk. He's taking all the business. He's taking all this stuff. And when you finally, because I struggled with this, and then I finally made a decision one day. I said, you know what? I need to get over this and move on. And I did. And I know that there's probably, I know that there's one instance in my life where somebody was bitter about us doing business or taking their business or vice versa. And I'm like, dude, I just forgive and I want to move on. And I hope that that person did, because I don't actually know if they did or did not. But I moved on in my heart. And it was that moment triggered something for me, which was there's enough for everybody. You do live in abundance, abundance of grace, abundance of opportunity, abundance of creativity, of energy, but you won't live there mentally until you can finally say, I'm relinquishing this stuff. Otherwise, you're always living in scarcity, man. Always, always, always living in scarcity. And then the default answer to scarcity is criticism, negativity, depression, all the other symptoms of that ideology or of that scarcity-driven mindset. And it starts with that belief system. Man, well, I can't compete with him, and I can't be in business and him being in business. We can't have a win-win. It's either me or him. It's either her or her. And the truth is, we don't actually live in that reality, do we? But it's a reality that we've created. It's a narrative that we've accepted as fact when it really isn't fact, because you can change that. But it starts with you, doesn't it? Like if you've got an issue with somebody, doesn't it start with you, Dean, as the ultimate responsibility to say, I'm sorry, I screwed up. Please forgive me. I'm forgiving myself.
Yes, and here's the thing. There's several forgiveness models. They're not bad. But what they do is as soon as you start the forgiveness process, they'll have you go talk to another person.
Okay. I'm
going to suggest that forgiveness is like a coin. It's just one coin, right? It's a nickel, but it has two sides. So does forgiveness, so does sin. But I'll just to keep it short, forgiveness, there's a personal forgiveness side. The personal forgiveness side is only between you and God, just you and God. That means you can forgive anybody for anything and be free. It doesn't include anyone else. You don't need the person who offended you to be a part of it at all.
Yeah.
It's a guarantee if you do it, if you make it a priority. The other side of the coin is the relational forgiveness, and that takes two to tango.
Yep.
I say, hey, take a moment and work on your personal forgiveness side, the part where, so that your filter can be in the right place before you go talk to the other person. If a hurting person comes over and talks and things will come out, it can make things worse or definitely won't maximize your potential. So today we're talking mostly about personal forgiveness. And guess what? The relationship forgiveness isn't always guaranteed because it does take two to tango. Reconciliation is not always practical.
Yeah.
It's not always appropriate. It's not always safe. But the personal forgiveness, the freedom on the inside between you and God, and an intentional daily practice is 100% guaranteed. And now I've seen thousands of examples, way worse than mine, for people to have breakthroughs because of what God has done in their life in forgiveness. And so I just know too much now.
You're giving us a lot of perspective here, because even though, and I think the ego is the enemy of this, right? So I don't feel like forgiving. Your ego wants to feel good. Your ego wants to feel, instead of just doing good, which is your spirit, right? Your spirit says, I want to grow. I want to develop. I want to help people. I know that I can do more in this life, but your ego goes, no, I was hurt. My pride was hurt. This was hurt. This was hurt. I can't forgive because if I forgive, I lose. Do we truly lose if we forgive? What do we actually lose? Because I think nobody ever asks, what do you lose? And
what do you lose when you forgive?
Well, people say, dude, if I forgive, I lose. I lose. He won, I lost.
Yeah, and you know what I realize when they say that? I just say, then we just have different definitions of what forgiveness is.
Yeah.
Okay, I see what you're doing there.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing: that's not the kind of forgiveness I'm talking about. The kind I'm talking about is where you only win. Win, 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 win. Your kids win, your spouse wins, your business wins, everything wins. Because I'm not making what my offender did okay. I'm not justifying it. I'm not saying, okay, it's good. No. What I am doing is I'm surrendering. I'm getting rid of the bitterness, unforgiveness, and resentment, realizing punishment is not my job. Mm-hmm. If you want to get biblical on it, Jesus Christ already paid for the punishment, the penalty of that person's sin. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I don't need to make forgiveness even happen. I just have to enter into what God has already done through Jesus at the cross. And that happens in a personal relationship with Jesus. Mm. So call me crazy, but that's what I do.
Dude, I'm not calling you anything. I think this is such a brilliant piece, and I'm going to do something a little bit different than what we normally do. I want to give you a practical thing that nobody else is going to do. Maybe they are, I don't know, but I'm just going to, Hans, would you indulge me for a moment? Maybe we can do this. I think this would be cool. And I don't want to get too weird on you. And if you get all weirded out, like, Humble's getting weird on me. Oh, man, he's supposed to talk about business tactics and how to make money in real estate. Now he's talking about forgiveness and Jesus and all this stuff. And it's weird, man. You're becoming weird. Hey, listen, I'm not trying to make anything weird. I just want to give you an opportunity that if you've got somebody, and maybe, Dean, you could walk us through this. If you've got somebody that you're holding resentment, maybe it's yourself. Maybe just take a moment. Just take a moment and just think on that and dwell on that for a second. Now I'm going to put on some music. There you go. Boom, there it is. Just think on that. And if you somewhere, somehow decide that you want some help, you want to discover this further, I'm sure Dean's got amazing stuff that he can help you with. But just take a moment, because maybe you haven't done that in a long time. Who is that person? Just think about 40 years from now, 30 years from now, 20 years from now. Is it really worth hanging on to this and passing it on to your kids, to your friends, to your family? What is the outcome of hanging on to it? Can't be good. You see, the deed has already been done. Dwelling on it's not going to change it. I just want to give you the opportunity, and this may not be the moment for you, but if it is, I just want to give you an opportunity to do something very mature. And just say, I want to forgive. It's probably a good start. Dean?
I know some people are going to say, there's no way in heck I'm going to say I want to forgive. And I'll tell you, I don't know if I've ever wanted to forgive. However, choosing to forgive is something you can do whether you want to or feel like it. In the same way I can choose to wake up in the morning, even though I really want to stay in bed for another 2 hours, I can get up. And you can forgive by choosing. Can we have him say, I choose to forgive?
Yeah. Yep. So good. Folks, thank you for participating in that. That might be the first time you've ever done something like that. And whatever your beliefs are, whatever your faith is, maybe you don't have any faith. You are worthy of living a prosperous life full of joy. So I just want to give you that validation today that you absolutely can. Thanks for those that participated. I choose now and every day. Thanks, Wendy. Choose to forgive. Dude, that's just such a powerful message, Dean. This is a message you never just like, wow, it was nice show, guys. You know, it's wonderful. You know, this is a conversation that requires real work. And I just want to acknowledge that and just think just so powerful. I'd love for folks to continue the conversation. How can they stay in contact with you, Dean? What is the best way they can do that?
You can find me at deanericsmith.com. The Eric is an ERIC, deanericsmith.com. And if you want to know more about some of the resources I have for forgiveness, it's deanericsmith.com/forgive.
So good. So good. Dude, you're such a blessing to me, man. I'm just so blessed by this conversation, by your spirit. I knew this was going to be good when our mutual friend, Danelle Delgado, connected us. And she's like, hey, I got somebody. You need this story. And that's what we try to do every day, folks, is just share amazing stories. And sometimes we get crazy and zany on the show. And other times we just talk in real life. What I don't want to do is just feed you with nonsense or feed you with propaganda or feed you with fear. I don't think you need any of that stuff. And you don't need news. You don't need politics. You just need to recognize that you are in control of what you think if you make a decision. And ultimately, whatever your faith is, journey, you can prosper and you can have abundance in your life. It's not reserved for certain people. Nobody's better than you. Christians aren't better than you. I don't care where you're at. We just want to love on people every day. That's the whole thing. Just love on people every day because that's what we're called here to do. So, Dean, I'm so thankful for this just amazing conversation. I wanted to honor your story, man.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Take care. We'll talk soon.
All right. Love you. Thank you.
Take care. God bless. Hey, it's Ben Humble. Thanks for checking out the show. If you like what my guest is talking about and you're getting massive value from it, then scroll to the bottom, open up the description, and follow them on social media. Support them, connect with them. Just scroll down there, click the link, and let's roll. Stay humble.
Make sure to subscribe to Ben on YouTube so you can stay up to date on everything Humble, featuring daily episodes of the Humble Podcast and weekly video content providing motivation, real estate strategies, and personal development for everyday life. Also, follow Ben on Facebook and Instagram for daily interactions. Check out humble.ceo and download a chapter of Ben's new book, From Communism to Capitalism, absolutely free.